I've always thought about it and always talked about it to my close friends that I would love to do some sort of a global Supercross program. There's so many Supercross races around the world. One of my really good friends is Eric Pinard, who does Bercy and Geneva, and the list goes on. He's the man. Yeah, he's the man. So had long conversations with him, like, hey, what do you think? Would this work? Would it not? And then how the Australia thing came about was 2010. I came over for Yamaha and did the first 3 races. So I was with JGR, but I think someone at Yamaha Australia reached out to someone at Yamaha America, like, hey, can we bring somebody over? They asked me. I said, absolutely, I'm in. So I kind of fell in love with Australia then, doing the first 3 rounds and just something different. And the whole vibe of this country is just awesome. Like, I love being here. I love everything about it. So then when I left Australia and flew back to North Carolina where I was living, I met my wife 2 weeks after that. So Australia was really fresh in my head when we met. So we had always talked about it.
So you
want to go to Australia.
You had like the Aussie swag. Yeah. You're like, I got it because of the swag. I got it because of the Aussie swag.
Yeah, exactly. So it was so fresh in my mind that we talked about it a bunch. And then when those conversations were going on, I'd love to go back to Australia. I'd love to go race that series again. But it seemed like the series was strong then, in 2010. Then it seemed like it kind of took a dip. You didn't really hear a lot about it, Supercross anyways. And then it was kind of clawing its way back when I got a message from Yariv Konsky, who runs the Honda team here. And just by chance, we were out at the beach in North Carolina, and I wasn't much of a social media guru at the time. I didn't even know you could send messages on Instagram. So we're sitting on the patio, and
that's because you're super married.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So my wife was talking to me about these messages that you could send or whatever, and I was like, yeah, I've never even seen those. So she gets on. I'm like, hey, where are they? And I had tons of messages, right? And the third one now was Yariv, who had just sent me a message like 3 days prior.
No way.
So I just happened to click on it, and he said something along the lines of, hey, I run the Honda team. Would you ever be interested in coming over? And I was like, no way. This is like an amazing opportunity. This is what we want. Like, maybe I could do this and then maybe do something in America with Honda or whatever. So the first call I made was Dan Bentley, who was the team manager of Factory Honda at the time. And
so what year was this?
This was 2016.
Yeah.
So I had just had a big crash at Washougal. So I took, I guess I was out for a few weeks, and it was kind of like the point of no return. Like, I don't want to ever do motocross again because all the reasons we listed before.
Yeah.
And there was a pattern of me getting hurt towards the end of motocross like the previous 3 years. And I don't think it was
what do you reckon that was?
I think I was just so mentally tired.
Yeah.
I was so tired that you got to be so focused at the highest end of our sport. To be the highest level of any sport, you've got to be so focused, and I just wasn't. I was going through the motions.
Yeah, because I can imagine that, like, if you haven't got the championship on the line, you're racing around for like what, 6th in the series,
exactly,
5th in the series. Like, what's the incentive there to really keep you on the ball, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's tough. So yeah, I had a big crash there. So there's usually a break after Washougal anyways. There's a 2-week break, and so we had a beach trip planned, and it was the perfect timing for it because we had just sat down and every night we'd just sit there and just chat, right? And yeah, we just said, look, we've got to do something different. And so I made that call to American Honda, and they jumped all over it. They're like, absolutely, we'll support you.
Really?
And then the balls just started rolling. And literally a month later, I'm in California on a Honda at the Honda test track. We had, and my mechanic Brent at the time was working for me at KTM. And we sat down and I said, look, I've got an opportunity to go to Australia, but I have nothing after that. I have no ride, but if you want to have this once in a lifetime experience, we can go to Australia for 3 months. We're going to do I think it was a 6-race series at that time. You get to work on basically a factory Honda, and we'll go to California for 2 weeks and ride the bike, and then we're out. We're flying to Australia for 3 months, and so yeah, he had an offer from several factory teams within the sport, and the more we talked, the more it was like, man, you only get one chance at this. You only get one shot at being young, one shot at traveling. He had always wanted to go to Australia. So that was a huge piece of the puzzle, is to have him on board, because it's tough to show up in a different country with a new mechanic and different bikes. And then Honda, they wouldn't want just anyone working on their stuff. And so he committed. Then next thing you know, we were in Australia. We shipped everything from America, and we were racing over here. It was crazy. It was a crazy couple months of my life, and then still not having anything in America. So when I left America to fly to Australia, I had no ride, no nothing. I knew something would come about, but I knew that I wanted to somehow start this program, and even if I didn't get a ride in America, I was fine with it. I was like, look, I'm going to travel the world, and we'll see what happens.
So in your head, like, even if you didn't get a ride in the US, you thought, like, I'll do the Aussie thing. Hopefully I can win that championship. There'll be some bonuses or whatever that come with that. And then I'll just do races around the world that I want to do, and just sort of chase the prize money and the appearance fees and stuff like that.
Pretty much, yep. And thankfully I had enough saved up to where obviously I couldn't just retire and sit on the couch for the rest of my life, but I was comfortable enough to have a few years, or to figure out what's next. And I know that I'm big on, you only get one shot, you only get one chance to live this life, and I want to enjoy it. And especially when I had these opportunities like the one here in Australia with Yariv, I wanted to take full advantage of it. And I didn't want to sit there and just kind of sit around and mope around and wait for something to come up in America, because honestly, Supercross only rides in America are few and far between. So when the talks were kind of going on with Honda, in one of the conversations with Dan, he said, so what are you doing when you come back to America? I said, I have no idea. I just know that I want to do this in Australia. And he goes, well, we want you on Hondas when you come back. So one thing led to another. They had some support ready to give, like they needed or wanted another team. So we kind of put our heads together and said, all right, there's a list of 4 or 5 teams. Let's make some phone calls and let's see which one would fit me the best and Honda the best. And it ended up being Mike Genova and Moto Concepts. They were the kind of the perfect fit. Obviously came with some baggage and some, I don't even know the right word for it, but there was some drama, I guess, surrounding those teams. So I was a little hesitant. Honda was a little hesitant. But in all the conversations I had with Mike, I had with Genova, they were awesome.
He seems like a really good dude.
He's
like
such a good guy.
I've only ever heard good stuff about him.
He's a great guy. And my parents always taught me, like, don't ever judge somebody by how someone else has judged them, because you never know. So that's how I went into it. And it all came together while I was here in Australia. While I was racing over here, I was on the phone working deals and kind of my own agent and playing that role of between Honda and Genova and then myself. And so they ended up, obviously now we know the story, but
was the big hang up Alessi? Was that like one of the big problems that was
with a few sponsors, but not really. No, not really.
Because he's actually a pretty good dude too.
Tony's
really.
a good guy. Yeah. He's
very misunderstood guy.
He is misunderstood. I think where the most drama, I guess, comes in is with his own sons, just because. And now me being a father, I kind of get it. I mean, that's an extreme side of it.
I was gonna say that's taking it.
That's taking it to a whole nother level. But I could kind of see where he's coming from a little bit. And if you know their whole story, the Alessi story, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Of basically, if we don't win this race this weekend, we're not eating next week. So kids, you have no choice. You have to go win the race. So we're going to do anything we can. We're going to cheat. We're going to do this engine. We're going to do that engine. We're like, it's pretty crazy. That's a whole nother story. That's it's wild. Yeah. So I had nothing but great interaction with Tony, and that's the one guy. I always said he's a racer's team manager. Like, and what I mean by that is he'll do anything to make your motorcycle competitive enough to go win the races, or to the best of our capabilities within the team and that team structure to go do the best we very can. So, so then we landed. So they ended up hiring Brent as well, who was my mechanic that went to Australia. So the pieces of the puzzle were just really falling into place. And it took, we had a short amount of time to do it. But yeah, it all came together. And like I said, with Honda and Moto Concepts, and then I ended up winning the championship over here. So that kind of set me up and gave me some confidence for America. There's something about a Honda that has just always fit me. I grew up on Hondas, and there's just something about me on that motorcycle that I just gel with, and I picked right up where I left off in 2012 on that bike. And yeah, kind of the rest is history.